Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we had the huge new update and we've got a bunch of new stuff. So first of all, we're going to release our Meet the Hood video. That's where you are right now, and I'll go over my build real quick. Now, as you can see, we are using the Azure Lane Hood Commander. Now, keep in mind, as a community contributor, Wargaming has loaned all of this stuff to me. The Hood, the Belfast, and all of the Azure Lane commanders so that we can check them out. I'm going to do a commander video as well for you guys, just to go over each of the characters and what they're good at. So, without further ado, now I will say this. In the video, you're going to see me in the Hood using Andrew Cunningham. Okay, so if you're interested in that build in particular, go to any of my other, any of the British Battleship Meet-Thas. In other words, like, Meet the Vanguard is probably the most relevant. So if you want to check out that build, it'll be at the beginning of that video. But we want to go over the commanders for this. As you can see, we have the HMS Hood, we have Torpedo Charmer, we have Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits. By the way, these are two perks that I use on my Andrew Cunningham. I like these commanders because they kind of give you the best of both worlds. You can have one commander that has both dispersion and accuracy plus tankiness, which is amazing. So highly recommend, if you get these, to use these kind of commanders, because you're not going to get all of the skills that you get. Now, obviously, you're not going to get all the skills. Normally, on my dispersion build, I would choose marksmanship here, but this is a very good perk here as well, and it's a special one. Royal Navy's Glory increases the speed of your battleship and reduces the reload time of the damage control party with no negatives. That is a fantastic perk for a battleship. There's no negative there. You go faster, and your damage control reloads faster. Can't argue with it. Now, for the last perk here, we have Master Mechanic, which gives you an extra repair party charge, increases the amount of HP you can recover, and reduces the reload time of your repair party as well. So, yeah, this is damage control, this is your repair. So, keep that in mind. Not the same. And then for our legendary perk, we went ahead and pulled on our Running with Scissors, because I don't like losing a repair party charge to increase detectability of torpedoes. That's a dumb move. You need all the repairs you can get. Dispersion of the main battery is the only negative. It adds another 2%, but we've kind of counteracted that with the rest of it, and we get minus 2% to our rudder shift time, and traverse speed of the battleship's guns is better. So it's a good perk. And then, of course, Andrew Cunningham we have as our battleship's precision is increased. So, yeah, we're not a level 11 yet, so unfortunate there. But like I said, we used Andrew Cunningham for the actual... Actually, I'll just go ahead and show you real quick. If you want to see my build for Andrew Cunningham, here you go. I'm not going to go through them all. Just going to go through it. You'll have to pause. So, there you go. And, of course, Takio and Otto are my two. Okay, so with that being said, let's check out how we've got it set up. So nothing out of the ordinary here. Aiming systems mod 1, then we've got propulsion mod and target acquisition. Now you could change any of these out if you'd like. It's not guaranteed. Like, this is the one perk, like you can change this out at will. Just depends on your play style. I prefer to get moving sometimes in my battleship, so propulsion mod has saved my butt so many times. Anyway, now if we go to loadout, I don't have anything on here. You can see it's got the premium camo, because that's what it comes with if you buy it. I've got my alpha test flag on there, that's it. You can see it comes with 4 repair parties, which is amazing because of the extra one we get. And then 2 sonar uses. Yes, it's a battleship with sonar, which is amazing. Love it. It can detect ships at 4.2 kilometers, which isn't bad. It's not amazing, it's not German, but it's not bad. And it detects torpedoes up to 3 kilometers away. So, not too bad. Now, survivability, 67,700 hit points. It has a lot of hit points. But those hit points get chewed up really quickly when you're in a fight with other battleships. because the armor isn't that thick. It's a battle cruiser. It's not an actual battleship. Yes, it's labeled a battleship in the game, but in all actuality, it was a battle cruiser, and an old battle cruiser at that. It's most famous for the battle where it was sunk, or not sunk, but exploded by the Bismarck. And if you don't know that story, I encourage you to look it up. I think there were only 3 people that escaped alive from the hood. So it's definitely a tragedy. But, you know, that's kind of things that happen during war. I mean, you know, you don't get on a battleship where you're fighting other battleships and assume, well, a battle cruiser in this case, and assume that, you know, everything's going to go perfectly all the time. It was an unfortunate ammo detonation, and the ship exploded, killing pretty much everybody on board. 3,704, I think there was something like that. 3,400, I don't remember. Somebody will know more than I do. I just trying to go by memory. Artillery, 381 millimeter guns. I believe these are the same ones that you get on the Queen Elizabeth, and they are fantastic. These are a lot of armor-piercing damage that you can get, okay? Unlike most battleships for the British Navy, this and the Queen Elizabeth are both fantastic for their armor piercing. So that's a good thing. Fires out to 16.8 kilometers, has a decent reload of 27 seconds, so you can't argue with that. That's a nice reload. The turrets rotate decently as well. It's got maneuverability. As you can see with the buff, we're doing 30.7 knots at top speed. That's right there with the Iowa. Probably faster than most Iowas if they go for the full dispersion build, and they end up at like 26, 27 knots top speed. But the turning circle, not the greatest. It's not terrible, but it's not the greatest. And the concealment is, I mean, it's a battle cruiser. It's a little better than battleships, but worse than cruisers. Obviously, the overview, above average maximum movement speed. We went over that. Nimble aim, above average main battery traverse speed. So that's what I say, the traverse of the turrets isn't bad. It's actually decent. I like it. Compromising high caliber AP shells may overpin the armor, but may still arm depending on shell velocity. This I disagree with. I think they kind of slap that on anything above 15 or anything 15 inches or above for the, you know, the negative. But these armor piercing shells almost always detonate when they penetrate, especially cruisers who think that they can get away with it. These things will wreck you. Do not sleep on this ship. I promise you, you will regret it. Especially if the person is firing AP. The Hood, a fast battle cruiser that had long remained the largest and one of the most powerful ships in the Royal Navy. The ship was built based on the experience gained during World War I. Unlike later period battleships, she had weak horizontal armor protection. In the beginning of World War II, the ship's outdated secondary armament was demounted and replaced by enhanced anti-aircraft guns. So it's got good anti-aircraft, but unfortunately doesn't do us any good. But yeah. Entered service in 1920. There was only one, and like I already mentioned, she did have a really bad day for everybody involved. It was an absolute tragedy for Great Britain. So let's get on to the video, shall we? All right. So we all know, or at least most of us know, that the Hood was sunk by the Bismarck. It was actually sunk by the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen. The British squadron spotted the Germans at 5:37 a.m. But the Germans were already aware of their presence. Prince Eugen's hydrophones having previously detected the sounds of high-speed propellers to their southeast. The British opened fire at 5:52 a.m., with Hood engaging Prince Eugen, the lead ship in the German formation. And the Germans returned fire at 5:55 a.m., both ships concentrating on Hood. Prince Eugen was probably the first ship to score when a shell hit Hood's boat deck between her funnels and started a large fire among the ready-use ammunition for the anti-aircraft guns and rockets of the UP mounts. Just before 6 a.m., while Hood was turning 20 degrees to port to unmask her rear turret, she was hit again on the boat deck by one or more shells from Bismarck's 5th salvo, fired from a range of approximately 16,650 meters. Those of us who use yards, it was about 18,210 yards. A shell from this salvo appears to have hit the spotting top as the boat deck was showered with body parts and debris, and you can just imagine the gruesome nature of that. That's a ridiculous statement. A huge jet of flame burst out of Hood from the vicinity of the main mast, followed by a devastating magazine explosion that destroyed the aft part of the ship. The explosion broke the back of Hood, and the last sight of the ship, which sank in only 3 minutes, was her bow nearly vertical in the water. Hood sank stern first with 1,418 men aboard. Only 3 survived. Ted Briggs, Robert Tilburn, and William John Dundas were the 3 rescued 2 hours after the sinking, which spotted substantial debris but no bodies. So of the, what was it? What did we say it was? Crap! I already missed it. 1,418 men aboard, only 3 survived. That's an incredible tragedy. So that's why I wanted to go into the history a little bit. I know I don't normally do that, but I figure we have a little bit of time before the video really gets rolling anyway. So I wanted to give you guys, for those of us who aren't necessarily the historical guys that are out there, I wanted to give this ship its due. You know what I mean? I don't normally do that. If you guys like this sort of thing, let me know. I'll try to do more of it in the future. For, you know, obviously for historical ships, I can't really do that if it's a ship that was, like, modeled and never actually, you know what I'm saying. So let me know if you guys like to hear a little bit of the backstory. Obviously, the Hood, I didn't do it for the Arizona, but we kind of all knew about the Arizona a little bit, so that's, you know, there's not a whole lot to say other than the fact that it was sunk at Pearl Harbor. So, like, the Hood is one of those ships that it's just, it was such a tragedy and such a historically prominent ship and a prominent catastrophe that everybody has heard about at some point. If you're into any sort of naval history whatsoever, you've probably heard of it. So I just wanted to bring that out. Now, let's get down to my feels for this ship. Honestly, right off the bat, my very first thought of this ship is I like it. I really do. I enjoy the ship. I wasn't sure if I would, given the fact that it is a battle cruiser, even though it's technically a battleship. World of Warships Legends developers have already said that they're not going to do subclasses. So, not subclasses as in submarines, I'm saying subclasses as in cruisers, light cruisers, heavy cruisers, all that. If it's a cruiser, it's a cruiser. If it's a battleship, it's a battleship. If it's a battle cruiser, depending on whether it's closer to being a cruiser or a battleship, it'll be classified as such, depending on, you know, that. So we're on PC, they have battle cruisers, they have heavy cruisers, light cruisers, all of that have their own lines and stuff. We don't have that in Legends. So that's something that we have, you know, something to take into consideration. Now, as a battle cruiser, there's a few things that jump to mind. Usually battle cruisers are ships that have battleship caliber guns, but have cruiser maneuverability and armor. And what that ends up making is a battleship capable first strike, but you really have to pay attention to what you choose to fight one-on-one, because anything with large guns is going to chew this ship to pieces pretty easily. Doesn't matter if you're battle tanking or whatever. Now, I will say this thing is surprisingly tanky as long as you're not a doofus. I've been a doofus a couple times today. I also got into a fight with a Bismarck in my very first match. Yay! And it was a 1 versus 1. It was actually pretty epic. I probably should have saved it, and I might actually have that on video at some point. I don't know. I ended up losing the fight. It was my own doing. I tried to beat him with skill. And it just turns out that I should have gotten my guns to bear on the right side to begin with. I was using 2 guns. He was using all of his guns, and when I got in behind him, I couldn't turn fast enough to out-turn him and get behind him. Now, that was the biggest problem with this thing so far, is it just doesn't turn as well as you'd think it would. For a cruiser, essentially. It just doesn't turn as well as you'd think. And that hurts it quite a bit. When a Bismarck can out-turn you, there's a problem. So don't rely on being able to out-turn anybody. Now, that being said, if you don't get into turning battles, and again, that was my first match. It was, you know, it's a growing thing. You got to learn. Oh my God, Blizzy, you are in for a punch. Ugh, look at that British armor piercing. Ah! So good. So good versus lightly armored targets. Against a freaking destroyer or a cruiser like that, you normally wouldn't get that much out of your armor piercing, but that guy found out the hard way that, you know, it is very easy for this ship to really put a hurting on you. Or any British ship, for that matter. Fiji, speaking of British ships, what you doing, buddy? You seem to be misguided in your efforts. Oh, look, torpedoes. Yeah, that hurt. I took all of his health that was left and left him with just enough. Now, that Blizzy has no health left. I have a Benson behind me, right? I think it's a Benson. And he clearly could have killed that Blizzy. Easily could kill him. But unfortunately for me, it's not what happens. Now, I get the shot off at the Fiji, and sure enough, we get the Citadel. Down he goes. Our first kill of the game. We've done all right, 37,000. We're under level, like, we are bottom tier, so you gotta take what you can get. Speaking of the Bismarck, oh God, he's already fired? Okay, we're fine. We're fine. You know, as long as this doesn't turn out to be the Bismarck getting the lucky hit that it got in real life, we'll be fine. And we get our first salvo off, and you can see just how dangerous the armor piercing really is from this thing. Getting 8,000 damage there, 3 penetrations, only 1 ricochet. This thing doesn't Citadel battleships like you would hope. It does a miraculous job with cruisers, which is why I say it probably has the same short fuse situation that most British armor piercing suffers from. But, that being said, this does not have trouble penetrating. It penetrates. Lots. So you will get good penetration. You're going to get consistent damage out of it, and that is something that I appreciate. I really do like this ship. It's very comparable to the Queen Elizabeth, except faster and more maneuverable. I do like this ship a lot. And like I said, the only thing that you really got to watch is when you get into a fight with a battleship at close range, they don't have to like hit your side armor. If they do and you're angled, you're going to bounce it because it's still, you know, got heavy armor. But they can chunk you right through the front of your ship pretty easily. We lose one of our turrets temporarily right there, but you'll see I'm trying to swing the rear guns. This is, you know, foreshadowing here, but swinging the rear guns around, just getting everything to bear, and we get another nasty salvo out, another 6,000, and those torpedoes look very good. And down he goes. The Akatsuki finishing him off. Now, okay, so we've got an Akatsuki there. The Blizzy that was over here has no health whatsoever. And this Akatsuki clearly has something else on his mind. Now, if you look across the other side of the map, sure, there are 2 people on the other side. There is a destroyer and a cruiser. We have a cruiser and a battleship at base. We have a battleship spotted. It's a Leon. It's 16 guns of just absolute terrifying stuff when you're close range and lightly armored. Now, he gets a good hit on the Blizzy right there. All he has to do is finish him off. Finish him off. I know you've got a long reload, but unfortunately, he's just not able to finish off the Blizzy, leaving him with no health. We derp our first shells right into the mountain. Come on, Spartan. Oh, it looks... He's right there. He's stopping for his smoke screen. We fire the guns. Surely that's going to kill him. There is no way that he's not going to get hit with that. Except he doesn't get hit with that. Unfortunate, but it is a thing. I try a couple times here to get shots on him, while I'm assuming he's just sitting there in the smoke screen. He's not. He's shooting and moving in the smoke screen, which makes him incredibly difficult to predict as far as where he's hitting. And you see, I try to think, okay, is he going to go forward? Is he going to go back? It's impossible to tell. I just fire my guns and hope that I hit him. And unfortunately, we do not. But we have to start paying attention to the Leon. Now, the Leon has made a catastrophic mistake here and is broadside on and should absolutely pay the price for it. Unfortunately, this is where that nasty problem with short-fused armor piercing from the British comes into play. Normally, a Leon parked broadside on like this gets deleted. That's just how it happens. If you're broadside like this in a Leon, you are dead, because you will be deleted with impunity. However, what's happening is every time I shoot him, because it's such a short fuse, it arms and explodes before it penetrates the citadel. And while we can get good damage, getting 4 penetrations right there, technically the first 2 and then the second, but you can see I knew that the torpedoes would be in the water, so I'm not in a hurry to go here. Now here is where I make my mistake. I lose this match for our team. Not afraid to admit it. The way I lose the match here is because I get overconfident. This Leon has shown me the broadside far too many times. I am still pretty confident in the ability to take this guy down. At this range, it should be Citadel City for him. Now here I make my first mistake, in which is I try to shoot over the island. I was lulled into a false sense of security, thinking I could shoot over it, even though clearly it said I couldn't, and now I take a first nasty salvo. Not preferable. The little bastard in the smokescreen has set me on fire. He's got no health, and he has set me on fire. Now, he was spotted for a moment there. He's coming out around the island, but I can't afford to deal with him. I'm trying to delete this guy so hard. I was like, I gotta kill him. And unfortunately, I don't kill him. Now, I have 9,500, and then the worst thing ever happens. His secondaries are going to set 2 fires after I just burned my damage control. Really? I've said it before. I'll say it again. Don't use your damage control on a single fire. It's so bad. Don't do it. But either way, we still couldn't turn the ship quick enough to avoid getting the armor piercing through the side of the ship. We'd have burned to death, but we may have gotten another salvo off. Unfortunately, we didn't. And the friendly Amagi that we ran into at the beginning of the match, or kind of ran into us and kind of hugged us for too long, he's defending the base. He's got 1 kill to his name, and all he has to do is not die, right? Just don't die. It's pretty simple, except not so much. While he's being shot at with high explosive, he's got a good chance to kill this destroyer, and unfortunately, the Hipper absolutely wrecks him. He only had 2,400 health left, and the Hipper just took it all. But we did all right. We did 104,000 damage, top of the leaderboard, 1,800 XP, and a loss, which is pretty good. Not a bad ship. I'd highly recommend this ship. It's a very, very good ship, especially for the British side. You don't get too many good battleships on the British side, and this is one of them. So if you like the British and you like your battleships, I'd highly recommend it. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.